I'm Corinne. I'm a speech and language therapist in the northeast of England. If you're about to qualify as a speech and language therapist and you're looking for any tips or advice for your first interview, hopefully this video will help. It's really normal to feel nervous before an interview and even during an interview. Hopefully you'll feel a little bit more prepared and confident going into it. So my first tip is to research the job and the trust that you're going to be hopefully working for. Lots of trusts use value-based interview questions, and sometimes these interview questions are even available online. If you have a little Google, you'll at least find out what the trust values are. So in terms of values, it's helpful for you to think about this beforehand and think about some examples of experiences that you've had that could either be through work or placements or just personal experiences, and how they fit into the values of the trust that you are interviewing for. It would also be helpful to find out if there's anything that's been going on locally or nationally for that client group that you want to work for, any research papers or kind of legal frameworks or any models that you might have heard about at university but might be relevant for that day-to-day work with that client group. I'd also recommend just having some generic examples from your work experience or kind of clinical placements, and use that kind of in the back of your mind as really good examples of work that you've done that you're really proud of and you really want to highlight to a potential future employer. I think sometimes it's easy when you go into an interview and you're quite nervous to have ideas prepared, but then when you actually go in, it kind of all goes a bit blank, and then you maybe come out later feeling like, oh, you know, why didn't I mention this? Or I wanted to talk about this experience that I've had, or what I've done on placement. So I suppose it's really helpful for you to think about the examples that you do want to talk about. Make sure you can think about, okay, if they ask me a question about this, how does that example relate to that? Or if they ask me a question about this other thing, how can I use that example to answer that question? So I think it would probably also be a good idea, if you can, to have somebody to then have a friend or family member do kind of a fake interview, but also if there's a couple of curveballs in there that you maybe don't expect, that's also really good interview prep about how you handle that and how you react, because it is really normal to be nervous, but it's just about how you handle yourself in that stressful situation with people that you've probably never met before. The cat's come to join. So another good tip I think that I've had before is around the STAR method when it comes to giving examples. S stands for situation, T stands for task, A stands for action, and R stands for result. So if you can use that as a little bit of a structure for your response, it makes sure that you're basically going to cover all areas and provide a really good, well-rounded example. When you're talking about something, if you maybe don't use that method or that structure, there might be gaps and they might be wondering a little bit like, oh, I wish they'd said a little bit more about this, or I wonder what happened next. It just brings it to a nice kind of conclusion when you're talking using that method. Another really important thing that people will want to see, especially in NHS interviews, is around kind of those ethical questions or safeguarding questions around kind of being a responsible, honest person who's committed to high quality care. So part of that does involve understanding processes and policies around obviously keeping the people we work with safe. That could be adults, that could be children. The details of that might be slightly different depending on different trusts and different employers, but the key principles are obviously that you are going to say something if something is wrong, you're going to act on it, you're going to speak about it in supervision, speak with your manager, you're not going to just let things happen that shouldn't happen, obviously, for the people that we're working and supporting. Another really important thing to be aware of when you're in an interview is to actually show understanding of what the job is. If you don't say it, you don't show that you have that awareness, the interviewer is going to come away thinking, I'm not sure about their competence in this client group. I think if you're a student especially, you've only maybe had certain clinical placements and experiences what you've been allocated, so that's understandable then if you're interviewing and you've not had that clinical experience. I think there's things that you can do to address that. If you want to work in a specific area, you can volunteer, you can shadow, you can get that work experience separately. But what I would also say is it's fine to do kind of your own research outside of your studies, but again, it's that transferable skills of, you know, if you've had one experience with a certain client group, there will be similarities that you can pull from and draw on in that interview, even though it might not be a client group that you've necessarily had loads of experience with, but it's again just how you think about it beforehand and do that preparation and then present it when you are talking through your experience, because that is also your chance to make sure that the job is right for you as well. So obviously you get that opportunity at the end to ask questions, and as well, you know, those kind of practical questions if it is, you know, you haven't had the chance to go and meet the team or shadow and find out about the day-to-day kind of details, then that's also your opportunity to do that. A really good question to ask if you are a student and it's going to be your first kind of newly qualified post is asking about CPD, training, supervision especially, so signing off competencies, how much time you have for that, what the expected kind of completion dates for that, because some jobs are very different. Some places will want you to take a lot more time with it, whereas some places might be more keen to kind of get you through that quite quickly, and you want to make sure that that's right for you as well. So I think, yeah, supervision, support groups, networks, training, all of that is really, really important for your first role, definitely. So just in terms of kind of some extra tips, arrive on time. If anything, be early. If you're like me, the idea of getting to an interview, maybe finding out where to park, finding out where to wait, if you need to bring any kind of documents with you and getting that all scanned through can be just overwhelming and a bit stressful. So make sure that you give yourself plenty of time, obviously before the interview, but also a little bit of time afterwards as well. I think it can be such a quick thing, and in the moment you're maybe very anxious, very stressed, overwhelmed, but then afterwards taking a bit of time to kind of maybe write down what questions they asked, you know, have that reflection time to think about, okay, what did I say, what do I think I answered really, really well, what do I think maybe I could have done better. If, you know, you've got a series of interviews coming up, it's all a learning process, and having that reflection time afterwards is really, really important. I think if you are not successful, it's also absolutely fine to ask for feedback, and most places, I think, expect that, you know, that's something that people want to hear. Not everybody does, and obviously it should be really constructive feedback, but if they're kind of taking notes during the interview, that's what that's there for. Bring a pen and paper, so if you do have the questions that you have obviously prepared and thought about beforehand, you've got them in front of you, so that at the end of your interview you don't just go blank and forget everything that you want to ask. And also to say, you know, just can I have a minute to kind of write down the key parts of your question. Something else, sometimes people will offer you a glass of water, but obviously it's fine if you want to bring a bottle yourself. If you feel like you need a bit of a second just to kind of pause and understand the question, just have a little sip of water, and there's no rush. What other tips do I have? The biggest things are be prepared, and that's in all aspects. That's thinking about your responses, your questions, you know, bringing supplies and being on time. Or another tip I think actually is think about what you're wearing. Interviewers might be aware that you are a student, but if you can dress professionally, they'll see you that way. But I just think first impressions do really count. So if you have had chance to go and meet the team beforehand, do a bit of shadowing and just have a little look around and maybe just kind of notice how other people are dressing, because it can be very different in different teams. So I would say it's always safer to kind of overdress and be that professional that you want to kind of show that you are. I think it's fine to say, you know, to ask them to repeat the question or to clarify. Okay, I think I'm just double checking this is what you're asking. Have I understood this right? Because you want to make sure that you're answering the question. Take your time when you're answering the question. I think that might be all the tips that I've got. So if you like this video, if you found it helpful, please like. If you've got any questions or comments, please let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions, even if my first NHS interview was a good few years ago. I'm doing interviews now, so it's something that I can remember, you know, kind of doing interviews myself, and my first interview in the NHS, and now being on that other side. If you want more videos like this, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm hoping to post more regular content, but I'm really open to any ideas or suggestions, what people would find helpful. Thank you, bye.